Welcome back. African countries have never been known to voice an opinion on many issues around the world, but that's not to say they're not watching just as carefully. Former Permanent Secretary of the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Keshi, joins us now from Abuja. Ambassador, thanks for making our time to talk with us today. What do you think is going on in the minds of the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, and the U.S. President Donald Trump when they make the statements such as the ones we've seen in this past week?
The truth is that I think there are two different things going on in both minds. I want to believe that in the minds of Donald Trump, this has been his style for so many years, and I'm sure that in his mind he's praying that the North Korean leader will take him seriously and, choose another path. In the minds of the North Korean leader, I think he's seriously amazed, or amused rather, that Donald Trump is actually taking him too seriously, particularly when Donald Trump intelligence agencies have told him that there is absolutely no evidence of any preparations being made by the North Koreans to launch any missile attack on anybody. So at the end of the day, I guess my own personal view remains. I'm convinced that the possession of nuclear armament is not something you joke about. And in the last 50 or so, 60 years, nobody has used it, and I don't see anybody using it. And so at the end of the day, we might find that due to some intervention, both leaders will come to their senses and begin to talk one way or the other.
Do you think either party wants a war?
Oh, absolutely no. No party wants a war to start with. Not the North Koreans, not the Americans. And bear in mind, I don't know whether you listen to the statement of the Secretary of State of the United States on Wednesday. Never mind that his president, said something else earlier and even after that. But on Wednesday, he made it clear. He said, look, Americans should go to bed and sleep with their two eyes closed. Which is an assurance that we are not in any way near to starting a war to start with.
So do you think that North Korea has nuclear weapons as it has been boasting these past few months?
Well, sometimes you have to believe a crazy fellow in what he says. The problem with the North Korea thing is that it is suspected that over the last couple of years, they've done a lot of improvement in their desire to become a nuclear power. And it's not because because there's no way to really verify this firsthand. It is believed, from satellite reports that they could, or rather they have the capacity or the capability to produce or to have by now that they have that capability to actually become a nuclear power. But there are those who believe that they are still a couple of years away from having a serious nuclear armament.
A lot of people will probably agree with you, Ambassador, when you say that North Korea does not want to go to war. But as things stand now, the country, which is very small, people believe that if North Korea makes the mistake of prompting the U.S. into a war, then it will be finished. But do you think that we should underestimate Kim Jong-un at this point?
Let me assure you, and I'm very confident in what I want to say, he will not be foolish enough to go to war, because going to war will be the end of his regime. Going to war will be the end of North Korea as we know it today. South Korea, for example, want a unification with North Korea. But South Korea wants a peaceful, negotiated reunification, not a chaotic unification to start with. So the young fellow in North Korea definitely, I'm not sure, wants to go to war. On the side of President Trump, I'm sure that his advisors have told him the consequences of going to war or even attempting to strike North Korea. He's aware of it, but typical of Trump, and he's done this all his life, and he said it in one of his books, a little bit of exaggeration wouldn't hurt anybody. But I think he's not realized that presidents treat such matter with calmness, with steady hands and so on. And I would advise people who really want to understand what's going on and how a president should behave under pressure to go and read the Cuban Missile Crisis. And they will understand how a young, inexperienced president like Kennedy handled the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's not too different from what we have today, but he really did a lot to avert a war with the Russians.
So where does one draw the line between rhetoric and warmongering?
Listen, rhetoric does not hurt too much. With Donald Trump, you can't draw a line. I mean, you would have seen this since he got into the race and since he became president. This is his talking trait, so let's grant him, that. Whether he works or not, we are yet to see. But as it is, this is not the first time you have two leaders in such a situation. At the end of the day, they will get to the edge of the cliff, and somewhere along the line, the international community will pull both of them back. To start with, again, I make the point, the South Koreans are not happy, the Japanese are not happy, the Chinese are not happy with the rhetorics, and they are not going to sit down and allow these two characters to, destabilize the region. None of these three want any destabilization of the Asian region.
Should we be worried about what's going on in this part of the world, knowing how we have relations also with North Korea?
No, we should. I don't think we should be worried about, or should I put it this way? I don't think there's a need to be that worried. Again, because I do not envisage a war. I'm not saying that they won't make any mistake. I'm not saying that somebody, a crazy fellow who wants to, a sycophant who wants to please his master will not encourage the young man to try something, stupid. But, at the end of the day, again, I make this point that he knows very well that to go as far as even sending a missile 20 miles away from Guam, could actually attract American reaction. And that will end its regime. He does not want that to happen to him, that's certainly, not to his family.
So usually there are no comments, from Africa when things like this go on. Is this because we're gaining from both sides? I mean, we're gaining from both the side that is in the side that's perpetrating this rhetoric and the side that's trying to defend itself? Well,
you've asked a very good question that I have also had time to ponder about this. And my mind goes back to what my former teacher, boss, and a friend, Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, once tried to do, to create what he called the medium power. That is a few countries between Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, that can, in moments like this, really speak up for the third world or for some of the smaller countries, to warn the superpowers about the dangers of not taking the rest of us into consideration when they get into this kind of situation. So it just shows you how helpless we become within the international community when you are small and powerless. The rest of the powerful world just decide, if they want to destroy this world, they won't put you into consideration. So for us, the lesson is that, look, we just have to try our best to do what we can to become as strong and as powerful as they are. And that reminds me, some people have made a case that, look, why shouldn't North Korea have become a nuclear power to start with? The Americans have a nuclear armament. Yeah. The Russians, the Chinese, Pakistan, India, and a few other countries. So why do you deprive others from becoming a nuclear power? So it's a question that some are asking us of today that no, you can't be a nuclear power and you stop the others from also possessing the same armament.
Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
There have been no more serious comments from either the United States nor North Korea over the weekend. Now, if they could only keep it that way, then maybe the rest of the world could rest a bit easy. We'd like to hear your thoughts concerning the issue. Hit us up on @DiplomaticChan and @Amarachi_Ubani to do so. Thanks for joining us this week. I'll see you next time.